wish somebody told me sooner what it's really like to live in Kelowna. In this video, we're going over 10 facts you should consider before relocating to Kelowna, making sure you're okay with them. And truth be told, before I moved here to Kelowna, I had some of these items on the radar, but now hindsight's always 2020, and you know what? I still wouldn't change a thing. Everybody, it's Mark Coons here with Selling Kelowna Real Estate Group, and without further ado, just gonna jump right into it. And number one thing we're gonna look at is going to be on top of everybody's mind, and that is forest fires. So forest fires is definitely probably one of the biggest issues with living in the Okanagan. Anytime you think about moving here or people debating if they want to move or live in the Okanagan, forest fires for me have always come up in the conversation. And when we're looking at it, yes, it's true that forest fires are, especially after what we saw last year with McDougall Creek wildfires, which was once in a 20-year fire. There is, obviously going to be issues, but it also comes down to strategically locating and positioning yourself and your property if you are super concerned with forest fires, and mitigating your risk where forest fires aren't that prominent and a little bit further away from the forest. Personally, we live pretty close. We 3 streets up from the forest, and we were evacuated last forest fire season. And guess what? We still love our neighborhood, and the pros for us still outweigh the cons. Even being out of our home for 12 nights, we still would choose to do it all over again if we had to. And I definitely feel for the families and the groups that have lost their homes throughout the wildfires, and that's definitely a tragedy. The one thing you will get here, and maybe another con would be that's related to forest fires, is the smoke. There are forest fires throughout Canada and throughout all the prairie provinces. There are always going to be risks associated with living in heavily treed and forested areas. But what we do get a little bit more in the valley is sometimes, and we haven't had it this year as much, but some years, depending on the airflow, the smoke can sit in the valley. This smoke can come from the States. It doesn't necessarily have to be a local fire that the smoke is coming from. It just depends on the air patterns and everything like that. This year, we're in August and haven't smelled much smoke yet here this year, where I know in other areas in Canada, in the prairies and that sort of thing, there have had smoke sit in for a day or two and then it would kind of flow out, but we haven't had that this year. Luckily, it is possible that it can sit in there. So that is one of the cons with the forest fires and the summer seasons. Number 2 thing is extreme heat. So if you're not prepared for the heat, it can get quite hot. Being a semi kind of deserty type of vibe or a California type of climate, you're going to expect to get some extreme heat. Anywhere from 30 to 40 degree heat, it can be expected here in the Okanagan, and you get the heat waves coming in. So you're going to want to make sure, if you are moving here, that you are properly equipped, that you are purchasing properties that have air conditioning, and that you can get away or have the means to be able to get to the beach or different ways to cool off. Number 3, also weather related, but we're going to the winter, the colder months there, and somewhat related to what happens with the smoke in the summer. In the winter, you can oftentimes get a little gray and gloomy winters. So this is where the winter blues come into effect, where you can have extended periods of times, 2 months or so of gray, wintry weather. All right, so we're not going to get a whole lot of sunshine. We don't get a whole lot of sunshine in the Okanagan. That was something I was used to in Saskatchewan, where you'd have minus 40 degrees. You can't go outside, but darn, that sun was shining and it sure looked nice out there. But you do kind of trade that sunshine and coldness for some gray, but warmer. So the average temperature in the winter is going to be, -5, but a little bit grayer. So don't expect a whole lot of sun. There are ways to get away from it and go a little bit higher, get up past the cloud cover, whether you go to Big White or Apex or Silver Star, get up into the mountains and get into the sun. The number 4 thing what we have is it is a driving city. So it is very car dependent. Even though they do have transit and transit options are getting a little bit better, there are a lot of opportunities right now with transit corridor and developments on transit corridors, but you are still car dependent. Unless you're in the downtown core, expect to needing a car. And the issues with the transit is not that transit doesn't go there, it's just the frequency and the amount of times that you're going to have to change buses. So if you are living outside the downtown core, you're going to want to make sure you have proper transit to be able to get to A to B, whether it be a bike, car, or walking, whatever you need to do. Just maybe it sometimes is issues to rely on the transit system itself. Number 5 thing, and this is a big one that seems to come up and up and up, and especially in there are groups and Facebook groups, and here is a tip. If you are thinking about moving to Kelowna, get into one of these Facebook groups and you can ask what it's like to live. And Kelowna can be quite cliquey at times. So it's finding a friend group, finding a new group to really jump into. Because Kelowna has been a little bit more of a transient town, there is a lot of people coming in and out, and the groups can tend to get a little bit cliquey and kind of stick together. But once you do get into them and you find your vibe, find your tribe, people that you really relate and associate with, then you once you get inside that clique, it is, a great opportunity, and you don't, I guess, necessarily go back from it. So there's such great communities out here. So the communities can be cliquey, but there are great communities out here. So it's not to say that the whole town is like that and they don't want to hang out or meet new people. That is not the case. Everybody is really a transplant at the end of the day. Not very many people in Kelowna are born and raised here. So it's not a cliquey that people are born and raised here. It is just people finding their friend groups and getting into it. So get out into the community, find vibes, find groups that you really associate with, and you can really make those connections and get away from the clickiness. The number 6 thing is homeless. All right, so this is something that's going to be it's near and dear to my heart with the homeless situation we are experienced throughout Canada. In Kelowna, it is not only really suspect in our area, but it's throughout Canada, and we're going to see it. But it is compounding a little bit more. Being one of the bigger towns in the interior of BC, we are getting more and more of the homeless population coming from other areas, especially with affordability and inflation happening right now in Kelowna. It is a little bit tough. So we are starting to see a lot more of that homeless population pop up and really compounding, and it's starting to compound here in the last few years with increase in home prices, increase in rent, and increase in overall cost of goods. When we're looking at it, it is really focused on the downtown core areas where you're going to start to see a lot more of the homeless population. And you're also going to see the homeless population in and around the rail trail. So there are different areas where you're going to see it. So this is something, if you are considering moving here, considering it and taking it into an account before you do settle on a location there, you're going to want to know what's happening in those neighborhoods. So if you do have questions, pick up that phone, give me a call, and I'd be able to help you and walk you through different opportunities and different locations that might fit you and your family and for whatever you're looking for. Number 8 thing to consider is traffic and construction. All right, so putting these both side by side is because, well, traffic is increasing in Kelowna. With Kelowna being one of the fastest growing communities in Canada, Kelowna has exploded in growth, and there's additional construction happening. So more people are adding, and the provincial government in here has mandated Kelowna in the next 5 years, add another 8,700 units in additional homes available to the community. So this is going to mostly probably be in apartments or condo style builds and not very much on the single family home side of things. With the single family homes, there is a great opportunity to increase the density in outer areas. But what is happening with the strong demand and growth, especially with Kelowna being a tourist town, we get a lot of weekend traffic. And so around in the summer and around long weekends, oftentimes it can be quite busy coming over the bridge and just overall busyness downtown area. So that's something to consider, that there's not necessarily the infrastructure put in place to be able to consider and help out with the additional units and additional people looking to move here. And expect this to not go away anytime soon because of the additional amount of people looking to move here. They are focusing on increased density in the downtown core areas and closer to kind of between Richter and the lake, higher up to 26 stories in those locations. And then if you go between Richter and Ethel, you're going to experience, kind of 4 to 6 story types of builds. So there are additional units happening right now in it, but something to consider when you are looking to move here. The number 9 thing we have is the high cost of living. All right, so depending on where you're moving from, Kelowna might not seem as a high cost of living area. If you're coming from Toronto or a big center like Vancouver, you're probably gonna laugh this comment that there is a high cost of living, because it is all relative. It's all relative to what you're used to and what you are accustomed to. When you're looking at the high cost of living, if you look at other areas of Canada, Alberta, Saskatchewan, even other areas in Manitoba or Ontario, you are going to probably notice that there is a higher cost of living here. That being said, the rents are all very comparable and still better than what you'd get in Vancouver or in Toronto. So there is a lot of demand here in the Okanagan, and that supply and demand has increased the cost of goods and increased the overall high cost of living here in the Okanagan. So that is something to consider, and BC does bring cash, so that is something you can refer to, and it's already associated with. So if you are looking to move here, just one more thing to consider. And also on the financial side of things, number 10 is we have the high cost of taxes. When you look at the taxes here in British Columbia, or the bring your cash aspect to it, you're going to want to bring 12% taxes on it. So you're going to account for that. That's just on your everyday purchases. I'm not going to get into your income taxes. I'm not going to get into luxury taxes. I'm not going to get into property transfer taxes. I'm not going to get into vacant home taxes. Although all of those do apply here in British Columbia. When you're looking at the tax situation here, 12%, 5% is GST, and the other 7% is what you consider PST on it. So something to consider when you are looking to live here. You're going to have to budget for a little bit more every month, depending on where you're moving from. And don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos of living in Kelowna, and let me know what other videos you would like. What are you looking for in Kelowna? Are you looking to relocate here? I want to know who and what you're looking for so I can do more videos to help you out. And if you are looking to relocate to Kelowna, pick up that phone, shoot me a text message, email me, whatever you need to do. I have your back. And if you don't want to talk to me, I have a link below. Sign up for a weekly email. It'll give you real estate specific information right in your inbox every Wednesday.